Have you ever been behind the wheel, waiting at a red light, and suddenly caught yourself thinking, was that turn a little tighter than I expected? Or maybe you've glanced in the rearview mirror and wondered, did I check my blind spot the right way? If any of that sounds familiar, you're not alone. As we get older, driving something we've done for decades without thinking starts to feel just a bit different. And it's not because we've forgotten how. No, far from that. It's because our bodies and senses evolve. With a few thoughtful habits and a little extra care, many older adults not only continue to drive safely, but also with more confidence than ever. In today's video, we're going to talk heart-to-heart about 6 powerful tips shared by senior driving experts, people who've worked with older drivers for years and understand what really makes the difference. These tips aren't about rules and restrictions, they're about freedom, safety, and peace of mind for you and your loved ones. So let's settle in, maybe with a cup of tea by your side, and talk about how to keep doing what you love, staying mobile, staying connected, and driving with calm and clarity. Let's begin with something simple, but often overlooked: repositioning your seat and mirrors. You might not think much about your driver's seat unless it's too hard or too warm. But as we age, our posture changes. Our muscles become tighter or stiffer, and sometimes our flexibility is not quite what it used to be. That's natural. But it also means that the way you sit in your car today might not be the same as it was even 5 years ago. Adjusting your seat isn't just about comfort, it's about control. Your seat should be high enough so you can see clearly over the dashboard, and close enough to the pedals so you don't have to stretch your leg fully to brake. Your knees should be slightly bent, not locked straight, and your back should rest comfortably against the seat. Now let's talk mirrors. Oh, the number of times I've heard someone say, "I didn't see that car, it came out of nowhere." But it didn't come out of nowhere. It came from the blind spot. And often, the issue is that we haven't updated the angles of our mirrors to match our current range of motion. If turning your neck quickly feels a little harder these days, you're not alone. That's why it's so important to have your side mirrors turned out just enough to minimize blind spots without losing sight of your car's rear sides. And yes, if you haven't already, consider adding small convex mirrors. They're inexpensive and help immensely. So before every drive, take a moment, just a few seconds, to check your seat and mirrors. You'll be amazed how much more in control and relaxed you feel when your body isn't straining and your view of the road is clear. Now that we've tuned into the vehicle setup, let's talk about something that's even more personal: energy and timing. If you've ever noticed that you feel sharper and more alert during certain parts of the day, you're absolutely right to trust that instinct. Our bodies have a rhythm, often called a circadian rhythm, that changes subtly as we age. For many older adults, the best time to drive is mid-morning to early afternoon, when vision is clearer, energy is higher, and reaction time is better. Driving after a heavy lunch or too early in the morning, especially during winter when the roads are still cold and slick, can increase the chances of feeling foggy, drowsy, or just a bit off. Nighttime driving, in particular, tends to become more challenging with age. Glare from headlights, reflections on wet roads, and even the contrast of shadows can make it hard to judge distance. One woman I spoke to, her name's Doris. She's 78 and sharp as a tack, told me she no longer drives after 6 p.m. Not because she can't, but because she knows her mind is clearest before then. She adjusted her grocery runs and doctor's appointments accordingly, and she says it's made a world of difference. "I feel safer, and that means I enjoy the drive more," she told me with a big smile. It's about playing to your strengths. Find your golden window, the time of day when you feel calm, clear, and focused, and schedule your drives then. Let family and friends know, and don't hesitate to ask for a ride outside that window. People respect wisdom, especially when it's spoken with confidence. And finally, let's touch on something that can sneak up on us: hearing. We often think of driving as a mostly visual task, but listening plays a quiet yet vital role. Think of sirens, honking, train bells, or even just the sound of a cyclist ringing their little bell on the right. It's common for hearing to decline gradually. The tricky part? It happens so slowly we barely notice. So if you find yourself frequently asking people to repeat themselves, or turning the TV up louder than before, it might be time to get your hearing checked, not just for conversation's sake, but for driving too. Modern hearing aids are marvels of technology. They're discreet, comfortable, and even smart enough to filter out background noise. I recently met a gentleman, Mr. Johnson, a retired mechanic, who told me that after getting fitted for hearing aids, he realized he had been missing the subtle hum of his own car's engine. Now, he says he feels more plugged into the road because he can hear what's going on around him again. If hearing aids aren't for you, there are still options. Keeping the car radio volume low, driving with the windows cracked slightly open when possible, and focusing fully no multitasking can help sharpen your awareness. So if we pause for a moment here, we've already taken 3 simple, yet powerful steps towards safer driving. Adjusting how we sit, choosing when we drive, and making sure we hear what matters. And none of these require big changes, just a little attention, a little care, and the quiet strength that comes from knowing yourself. Now, let's keep that momentum going. There's a quiet confidence that comes with experience. After all, you've driven through all kinds of roads, dusty country lanes, rainy city traffic, and part of that is being honest about changes we might not always want to admit, like how our eyes, muscles, and reflexes evolve with time. Maybe a bit dizzy when you stood up too fast, or even a little mentally foggy. It happens more than people realize. Many medications, especially those for blood pressure, sleep, anxiety, or even allergies can affect how you feel behind the wheel. And what's tricky is, the side effects might not show up right away. They can be subtle, maybe a bit of slower reaction time. He started on a new heart medication. 2 weeks later, he told his doctor that he'd almost missed a stop sign, just didn't notice it the way he normally would. It wasn't his fault. It was his body adjusting. And because he caught it early, his doctor was able to tweak his prescription, and Harold went right back to his smooth, steady driving. Plan your drives outside of that window. Your safety and the safety of others is worth waiting for that extra hour. Speaking of being steady, turning your neck to check the side, shifting your foot from gas to brake in a blink, gripping the wheel firmly during a sharp curve. All of it relies on muscle strength, coordination, and flexibility. And the good news? You don't need to be an athlete. Even gentle daily movements can make a world of difference. I remember speaking with Ethel, and even parking feels less of a strain. It's like oiling the hinges before opening the door, she said with a laugh. So ask yourself, when was the last time you really stretched your neck all the way to the left and right? How does your back feel after a long drive? Do your fingers feel stiff on cooler mornings? There's no shame in noticing these things. In fact, it's a sign of wisdom. Because when we pay attention to what our bodies are telling us, we can take small, powerful steps to stay ready. Even walking regularly, doing light yoga, or using a stress ball while watching TV can help keep your reflexes sharper than you think. And if something feels difficult, like turning the steering wheel with one hand or checking the blind spot, consider small driving aids. There are padded steering wheel grips, seatbelt adjusters, or even cars with backup cameras and lane sensors that are designed with exactly this in mind. Now that we've tuned into the body, let's bring our attention to something many people forget about, especially when they've driven the same routes for years, changing road conditions. Even the streets you've driven for decades can surprise you. A new traffic light, a restriped lane, construction cones that weren't there last week. And if you live in a place with changing seasons, things like glare from winter sun, early nightfall, or even wet autumn leaves can create unexpected challenges. One of the most helpful habits? Simply taking a few seconds before pulling out of your driveway to mentally scan your route. Ask yourself, is there road work today? Have I checked the weather? Is the sun low in the sky right now? Even using apps on your phone or asking a family member to check local traffic reports can help you feel more prepared. I knew a widower named Bill who lived in a quiet town, but drove once a week into the city to see his daughter. He loved the routine, but one day a detour sign popped up on his usual route. Suddenly, he was rerouted through busy, unfamiliar streets. It left him rattled, but the following week, he checked a live map before he left and took 10 minutes to review the route. Think about how powerful these habits really are. Being mindful of how medications affect you, keeping your body flexible and responsive, and staying alert to changes in the environment. Each of these strengthens your sense of control, your comfort, and your ability to respond with ease and calm. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present. By now, you're probably starting to feel a quiet confidence building again. Not because the road has changed, but because you've taken a closer look at how you can approach it with more calm, more intention, and more clarity. And that brings us to one of the most important, yet often overlooked parts of staying safe: behind the wheel, managing distractions. Now I know what you might be thinking. I've never been one to check my phone while driving, or I always keep my eyes on the road. And that's wonderful, but distractions come in many forms, and some are much subtler than a buzzing text message or a loud passenger. Sometimes it's the mental to-do list running through your mind while you're heading to the pharmacy. Sometimes it's worrying about that doctor's appointment you just had, or trying to remember what you were supposed to pick up from the store. The brain is a remarkable thing, but it has its limits. When we're emotionally distracted, even slightly, our focus can drift without us even realizing it. A stop sign can turn into just a red blur, or the speedometer might go unnoticed for a stretch of road. It's not about being careless, it's about being human. That's why many senior driving coaches recommend a powerful but simple habit. Take a moment to center yourself before you start the car. It doesn't need to be anything complicated. Just take a deep breath, place both hands on the steering wheel, and give yourself 10 seconds of silence. No radio, no rushing, just presence. That tiny pause can help you shift from thinking about everything else to thinking about this drive. Just this one journey. And when you're on the road, consider what can stay off. Turn off the radio if it's distracting. Let the phone go to voicemail. If you're headed somewhere unfamiliar, study the route ahead of time or ask someone to ride along. There's no need to multitask. Driving is a full-time focused job, and you've earned the right to do it your way. Slow, steady, and safe. One gentleman I met, Mr. Rogers, yes, like the famous neighbor, but with a love for classic Chevrolets, told me that his favorite way to stay focused is to hum a little tune while driving. He says it keeps his breathing steady and his nerves relaxed. No one needs to hear me sing, he laughed, but it keeps me in the moment. Whether it's humming, counting light poles, or just enjoying the view, do what brings you back to the road. Now, before we end this journey together, let's talk about something that takes a bit of courage, knowing when to ask for help. This one's tender, I know. For many of us, driving is more than just a way to get around. It's a symbol of freedom, independence, control. And giving that up, or even considering giving it up, can feel like letting go of part of yourself. But let me reassure you of something important. Asking for support does not make you less independent, it makes you wise. Maybe you've noticed that driving at night is getting tougher, or perhaps merging on a highways feels more stressful than it used to. That doesn't mean you need to stop driving altogether. It might just mean asking a grandchild to drive with you next time and give you feedback. Or it might mean exploring senior driving assessments, not to take away your keys, but to make sure you're driving the best you can with peace of mind. There are programs, even free ones in many communities, where trained experts can ride with you and offer gentle suggestions. They're not there to judge, they're there to help. One lovely lady, 81 years old and sharp as ever, told me how a 30-minute driving session gave her 3 tips that changed everything. A new mirror angle, a steering grip adjustment, and a route change helped her feel less anxious and more in control. She didn't lose freedom. She gained confidence. And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? Driving safely after 70 isn't about restriction, it's about reclaiming confidence, staying aware, and making choices that protect your independence for years to come. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You've already done that with decades of wisdom, experience, and strength. Now it's about driving smarter, not harder. So let's take a gentle breath together right now. Think of everything you've already done to stay safe. Adjusted your seat, thought about your medications, picked the best times to drive, paid attention to how your body feels, watched out for distractions, and maybe, just maybe, you're open to a little help when you need it. That's not giving up. That's growing stronger. And if no one has told you this lately, let me be the one. You're doing a wonderful job. The very fact that you're here watching this tells me that you care, that you're thoughtful, that you're committed to staying independent and safe, not just for yourself, but for your family, your community, your future. If something we shared today made you smile, made you think, or made you feel a bit more hopeful behind the wheel, we'd love to hear about it. Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us a story. Maybe even let us know what keeps you feeling sharp on the road. We're always learning from one another here. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to click the like button